Hey guys, welcome to the second Jurassic Misconceptions video. Now today we're going to be talking about the end of the Lost World, the very end shot of the Lost World where John Hammond is giving his big life finds a way speech and the camera pans over the family of the T-Rex, over to the Stegosaurus herd and then up to the Pteranodon landing on the branch where John Hammond is talking about making Site B a island that should be restricted and left alone so the dinosaurs can find a way. And there is a misconception here, I believe, that I don't hear any fans talking about, but it surprises me that they don't talk about this more. And this is going to be quite a complicated one, so you have to bear with me. So I was reading the junior novelization for the Lost World Jurassic Park, and when I came to the very end, something made me turn my head. Now let me read this and let me see if you can guess what it is. And I'm going to read you just a brief paragraph, which is the end, chapter 14, the ending of this Lost World. So story time, settle down. Here we go. It says, by 11 o'clock it was all over the television news. There was a lost world, an island filled with dinosaurs. In quotes, a tyrannosaur and its baby were taken off the island, reporters told viewers. But a freight ship is carrying them back as we speak. Ian, Kelly and Sarah watched the ship on the screen chugging down the South American coast. Exhausted, Ian and Sarah closed their eyes and began to doze. Kelly smiled, tucking a blanket under their chins. Everything was okay. The dinosaurs were heading home. People believed in dinosaurs now, and they also believed in her father. These creatures need our absence, John Hammond was saying on TV. He looked younger, stronger. We need to step aside, trust in nature, then life will find a way. Kelly pictured the island, stegosaurs grazing, compies jumping, rexes roaring, and she smiled once more. They would never be seen by humans again. Maybe. So, did you hear the important bit? Well, the important bit that got me was Kelly pictured the island. Stegosaurs grazing, compies jumping, T-Rexes roaring. Now, junior novelizations are obviously designed for children. They take the script of the film and they boil it down to a much simpler version so they can, sell it to children. As it says here, it's by Gail Herman, and based on the motion picture screenplay by David Coep and the novel The Lost World by Michael Crichton, it says here. The interesting part about that end bit for me is where Kelly says it says Kelly pictured the island. So that leads me to believe that the dream sequence in Jurassic Park 3 where we see the raptor saying Alan might not actually be the very first dream sequence in the film franchise. The last shot of the Lost World might actually be what Kelly is seeing in her head. Now, I was thinking about this in a way that I was like, hang on, do any of the old Lost World scripts say anything about this? Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find, not that one, I couldn't find a copy of the script that has the San Diego incident in it in time for this video. I might have another look and see if I can add it in. But I found the one where we end on the funeral of John Hammond. It's one of the old Lost World scripts. And if I zoom in right here, you'll see that it says Malcolm says, that's the thing about reality. He looks down at Kelly. Even when people stop believing in it, it doesn't go away. Kelly smiles and takes her hand, her slender fingers interlocking with his. Exterior jungle day. Back on Isla Sorna, we float over the deserted worker village, moving lightly as in a dream. And I was like, okay. So again, this leads credence to blurring the lines whether what you're seeing is in Kelly's head or actually the reality of what's happening on the island. Now, the thing that makes me start to think that this is a dream at the end of the Lost World, where we see the family of T-Rexes, the Stegosaurus and the Pteranodon, is the fact that when John Hammond, it's to do with the editing. It's John Hammond's speech about how the the island should be left alone, that they need to have the islands restricted and all this sort of stuff, and they need to work with the Costa Rican government. Tells us that they haven't established that on the island yet, and we know through the news broadcast just before we see John Hammond, as it says here. It says here, this is the transcript of the end. It says, by our calculations, they are nearing the halfway point of this trip. Oop, gone wrong way. They're about the halfway point of this trip. Jim, can you hear me there? Yes, I can, Bernard. We are halfway to the island. It is 206 nautical miles from our present location. So the bull T-Rex is still being brought to the island at the point where the news anchor says, let's take a moment to run the tape of our interview earlier today with John Hammond. So John Hammond, once the sun had risen and the T-Rex was safely secured in the hold of the ship, John Hammond was interviewed by the news, and he instantly used it as a way of getting his message out there that the island should be left alone. And we cut to, the ship is still on its way, and then Kelly is watching the news, and as we hear John Hammond's speech that Kelly's hearing over the news, we see the imagery of the island. And it's a very picturesque version of the island. We see the family of T-Rexes back together, there's no change there. The baby's hopping around, it's all fine. Then we see the herd of stegosaurs, and they're not bothered by the presence of the T-Rexes whatsoever. They're just going by idly. Obviously, there's the argument to be made that earlier on in the same film, Roland Tembo says that T-Rexes don't hunt when they're not hungry and all this sort of stuff, but prey don't know that. That's the difference. The Stegosauruses are walking by like nothing's, there's not a huge family of T-Rexes just there. And the Pteranodon flying out, which obviously was a hang-up of the previous scripts where they were going to have the Pteranodons attack helicopters and all this sort of stuff in earlier scripts of The Lost World. But the Pteranodons are just flying around and they land on the branch, and it's a very almost like a painting come to life. And it's very easy to imagine that is how Kelly is envisioning the island living, based on what John Hammond is saying on the news, and it might not actually be reflective of reality. So that is a misconception. I think some fans have not realised that it might be a misconception. I say might be because obviously, by all means, if you want to believe that end shot of the Lost World is reality, is what's happened on Site B, that's completely fair, and I can see exactly why, because I believe that up until earlier this year when I reread the junior novelization of the Lost World to get some information, and I was like, hang on a second, Kelly's picturing the island in this, and this is based off a script, and so that end sequence could be a complete dream sequence. Now, this would also, it would actually clear up some issues fans have had with trying to answer why the Pteranodons in Jurassic Park 3 were locked up when we see Pteranodons, a different type of Pteranodon, mind you, but a different type of Pteranodon flying freely around Site B. There could be all sorts of answers for that. If it's a dream sequence at the end of The Lost World, that would answer it, clearly. It'd be like, well, that's Kelly envisioning the Pteranodons being out, or Pteranodons being on the island, whereas in reality, the Pteranodons were actually locked in this cage, and they were nothing like the Pteranodons we saw at the end of The Lost World. But it's one of those things where, I don't hear any fans talking about the end of The Lost World as a dream sequence, but there is evidence out there to suggest that is the case, and I think it's got just enough evidence to support that it's actually a dream. We're seeing Kelly's vision of the island over that is the reality of what the island actually looked like, as this peaceful, nice place. that was left. Humans had just left, so there we go. Now I will look up if I can find another version of the Lost World script that shows the end, with the San Diego incident at the end, and see if I can see what it says at the end there. And if I do, I'll put it at the end of this video so you guys can see if it says if it's a dream sequence or not. But anyway, hope this video has been interesting. It actually went on longer than I was expecting, but I will see you guys in the near future.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you would like to help support more videos like this one in the future and my animated dinosaur series Dino Defenders Extreme, please click on the link to my Patreon in the description down below. If you don't want to help support, please, if you can, spread the word, because that would help me also. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and look forward to more in the future.